And welcome, everybody. I am the unbelievably prepared Mr. Brad Chester. I am definitely not going to fix this stream and pull Brian in from the side. I didn't add Crawley. I gave him so much extra time. I don't understand why he took so long to figure this out, everyone. I mean, this is mainly his fault. So I'm saying it's obviously not me, because that's just crazy talk. You know what I mean? That's who would possibly think that any of this problem is my problem? As I love that you instantly raised hands. You know what? Screw you guys. I can't even find Brian right now in this conversation. Nothing to see here. You are somewhere in one of these windows, and I'll make it work as we... Nothing to see here, anybody. Nothing to see here. Brian's...
We'll just keep leaning to one side to throw Brad off even more.
I'm seeing if I can be on the stream twice. There we go. I'm on the stream twice.
I'm working it. There's nothing to see. I'm just moving things around, there's Brian. I literally was perfect with this the whole time. And when this thing gets edited down, it won't even have this part. So I'm just going to curse a lot and pretend that nothing happened. Yeah. Hi, everybody. How's it going? I'm not saying that one of my best friends completely abandoned me in my time of need, but if your name rhymes with Bodzramovich, as so many things do, fucking dick. Literally his idea.
If your name has something to do with an article of clothing that people wear to sleep,
yes.
Pajamas, right? And there's pants involved somewhere.
Motherfucker, who literally comes up with an idea is like, I definitely want to do this, and then puts up a Facebook post where he talked about playing by intent, which we're also going to talk about today, and then just doesn't show up. What the fuck? You know what? I just want everybody to know that I'm definitely 100% going to upper deck Alan's house when I go there next. So... fuck. I'm gonna stab him twice in the butt. Not in a weird sexual way where your thoughts are going, like actual knife in the buttocks. So he has to
I'm
show
actually
it to the
just thinking about the fact that anybody else that hears this, that goes over to Alan's house, can upper decker him and just blame it on you.
100%.
You're now on record. You're now on record that if this happens, it's your fault.
I'm willing to take that. Yeah, yes. I mean, I'm willing to make that sacrifice to make sure that people do upper deck is us. Motherfucker.
So it's gonna be every other week he's cleaning out the back.
Yeah,
He hasn't even been here in a month.
I just keep driving there, upper decking his house and leaving. Fucking.
So what are we talking about tonight, Brad?
So we want to talk about a couple things. Alan did have a good post on it. We were talking about what playing by intent actually means, and I think it has been bastardized a little bit. And Gary's on it. I'm on it. Just go upper deck again. Everyone, full invitation to upper deck any bathroom in Alan's house. Doesn't matter which one it is. I think he's got 4 of them. If you want to really save up and attack all 4, I'm down with that too. So I want to talk about that. I really want to talk about the different terrains, especially with a new addition in the coming up here. What kind of terrain we're going to be playing on. And even though, I'm going to start with it. I'm going to start with player placed. And I might be basically in the minority here. I'm really good at player placed terrain. I spend a lot of time doing it, and I hate it. I just do. I think that if you have better terrain, you can have set terrain that changes per the mission. I mean, at the Armed Forces, Gary had it on his. We just did, it was set terrain per the mission. The players just moved it according to the player packet. You know what I mean? They had the measurements on there. It's one more thing that you have to be up on, and it's very difficult to stay up on all the armies, all the tactics, everything else, and then also player place. Like at LVO, for instance, I had a huge advantage playing against a lot of the European players that I played. I played a lot of them in my run, just because they just don't play player placed. You can be semi well versed in player place, but having reps in it is completely different.
I want to chime in on that. Like you said, with the whole player place, like people have some friends I've talked to about, and they ask which I prefer. And I agree with you. I'm not a big fan of player placed. And a comparison I make it to is look at, we're playing this game competitively. You know, we're playing this game as, I would say if this ever became like an esport or went to that level, we'd all be happy with that, you know? And when you compare it to other sports, NFL, you don't go to you don't go to a stadium in Pittsburgh and suddenly there's trampolines in the middle of the field. But then when you head to Denver, you have like blockades and walls, and suddenly in the 50-yard line, it'll just shoot up into flames. You don't have all these different parameters with it. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, but
I don't mind
you know
different
ahead of
terrain.
time.
Yeah, but the problem is like right now, Crawley and I are playing a game, and it's Michael said it, create on the center objective. Literally right now, Steven's playing an assault army, and I'm playing a Tau guard, whatever. Whoever gets the first piece of terrain has such a huge advantage right now.
Yep.
And that one roll shouldn't be that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can have a thing on it. You're in.
Thank you, Andy. I was going to say, there is difference in, though, because a turf field versus natural grass are very different when it comes to sports ball. As well as
agree. As well as the stadium temperature. Okay, fair enough.
Open
fair enough.
Versus sealed versus weather.
And then we get that on one piece of terrain on a table might just be rocks that you're using, and then another one you actually get Games Workshop walls and terrain, and another one is styrofoam. So we get a little bit of that too. We got a little bit of AstroTurf and grass.
I'm a turf and grass on that, but the thing is that it shouldn't be such a big deal. Like literally, if you're watching our game, Crawley and I are playing right now, and I'm shooting, and he's playing an assault army, and he gets to put the first piece of terrain down. It's a huge advantage now for him to win that game, and that shouldn't be that way. You know what I mean? You're just like one roll. Going first and second, you can mitigate that with your deployment, your redeploys, all that kind of stuff. You can't do anything about that piece of terrain in the middle.
Right. And let alone what player placed terrain set are you using? Right. So if you're going to an FLG event, which one of their 7 tables or 8 tables of player placed terrain are you using? If you go to a local event, is it player placed with WTC stuff or player placed with, random GW pieces? It makes a big, big difference. I mean, I've gone to events where they have player placed with a centerpiece, where there's player placed with WTC lines, player placed, but everybody has 2 L's, 2 crates, 2 forests. It varies so much on the player placed, where player placed then becomes an additional skill above and beyond, where for your average player, and although I've been playing for a long time, I very much consider myself an average player these days. It's another layer that I fall behind on somebody like Brad on Crawley that play and work with it and use it all the time, to where I'm just like, I'm putting terrain down. Oh yeah, I probably should have turned it that way. Yeah, I should have done that. I should have done that.
It's a huge deal on that, because you can just dictate exactly how you play the game, because you have to have your place where you deploy. Then you got to be able to go to your next stage. But like, I'll give Snakes credit about it. Jason Stagowski for the Glass City. He did make player place feel like it was more playable, because we had a piece of terrain in the middle that was basically a glass box, and it encompassed the middle objective every time. It was a diagonal piece, like I think it's 14x8, but if you touched it, you could be seen, and you couldn't take the objective without touching it. So like you couldn't just slam down. I didn't sit down and go, DJ, hey, you got your shooting army? Cool. Well, I put the biggest piece of terrain that I have, and I'm just going to sit in the middle objective now because you can't see me. That's just such a huge advantage.
Or then vice versa. I win the roll off and go, hey, I'm going to put this big piece of terrain off in the corner, and now your entire army is exposed on turn 1. Hope you don't lose 2 dice rolls in a row.
Yeah. Brian, before we move, can you clarify your position, since you did a really good job of neutral TOing the heck out of that? What is your position on player place versus GW?
I prefer set terrain. I'm not 100% sold on all the GW layouts. I think there's some improvements that could be made on those. But with those terrain patterns that they use, I actually think they're pretty good. I just think they've got them not jiggered correctly on the board. I think with a little bit of minor modification, it would work really, really well. They may be the 12 by 12 cubes, maybe a little big. They could probably be 10 by 10. And then that gives you the forests to be a little hair bigger. But I prefer set terrain. If I have to pick, I'm going to pick set terrain pretty much every time over player placed as a TO, even though it's more work as a TO.
I agree. I like. Okay, I'm gonna go around the horn real quick. Give everybody a couple seconds here. Top, how you like terrain? For me, it's set terrain that moves with the mission, then probably GW, and then player placed. Brian, I'm gonna go clockwise for me.
Sure. GW style set terrain that the big buildings rotate and you use the layouts that fit the missions.
Okay. DJ, what do you got? Put them in order if you want to.
Player place terrain or player place terrain is going to be last. I don't like that extra aspect to it. A lot of my terrain sets, even at home, are multi pieces, so moving those around is a pain in the butt to practice. So I mean, I like you said, the GW layouts with a tweak. You know, they're really easy. It's easy to set up on the table. It's easy to play it at home. And for someone who might only be able to get 1 or 2 games before a GT, it's a great way to practice.
Look at that. I go to Crawley, then I'm gonna go to the chat after this. Steven?
Dallas Open / WTC set style specifically for the table / mission. Number 1, GW style as done at GW events. Number 2, player place. Number 3, and then GW style at your local place that doesn't understand why the terrain needs to be a U, and will then player place at a local store next. I guess that player place there, and then the GW style when it's hodgepodged. Because the problem that I run into is that GW style has to be the way that they lay it out, and almost every single store that I go to that's just trying to adjust to it will not make them use, and it becomes a freaking awful shooting gallery on your far outside corners or your inside corner with the way that they're laid out.
Give you that. I'm going to go to the chat real quick, everyone. Mike goes, player place with a set centerpiece, like I was explaining with the Glass City. If that's an option, I've seen it very few places, basically just here. But I do like that quite a bit. I'm going to go to Endy's, though, because he has a really good one, and I want to have everybody kind of touch on this one. He goes, how do you counter set terrain where a TO clearly favors one style of army over the others and isn't considerate of both player styles? What do you guys think about that? Because I think you have to engage with the TO. And I'm going to give everybody a little bit of what to do. No one's going to pay attention to your opinion if you start the conversation off with, here's the 6 reasons that I think you suck, and then here's what you should do. They stop listening at, I'm kind of done hearing about how awful I am. So what do you guys think the answer to that is? I'm going to start with Crawley in the bottom. We'll go the other way around now.
I have found the best way to deal with that is to pick the army off of my shelf that abuses that the hardest. Exactly why. And my local TOs now like to talk to me about crazy things like this first, because they're like, hey, what would you do to make somebody else's life miserable on this terrain? I was like, glad you asked. Real quick aside, we had a TO recently that wanted to try to avoid the large piece of something in the middle, so he made a rule where nothing could be within 6 inches of the center. And I was like, if I played Tau, that might be a little bit of a problem. It's like, nah, it'll be fine. I played Tau and promptly 100 to 20 to every single player that weekend. So
thanks for the shooting gallery.
Exactly. Sometimes you have to show them, and you don't have to be a dick about it, but just like say, hey, this could be a negative play experience. Come up on a game night and show them through a game like why the negative play experience could exist.
DJ, what's your thoughts?
I'm on it. I actually completely agree with a lot of that. Like, you can't approach it like you try and insult the guy and say that they're dumb and say they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing. And a lot of veteran like TOs I've seen, usually in the mission packs or somewhere, you're getting the terrain layout ahead of time. So for the most part, I feel like the TO is putting that out there because they want the criticism. If they've missed something, They want people to tell them. But that's the thing. Talk to them as a person. They're a person too who most likely is working a full-time job and is running this tournament as a hobby and love for the hobby. Just be nice and say, hey, by the way, Tao can completely win every mission on this terrain setup.
Yeah.
I do want to hit the wall real quick before I go to Brian, because we have, first off, Michael with, that's why you start with 10 reasons they suck. But then you got old Jersey Mike on this. He goes, give him a compliment sandwich. Love your event. This thing sucks. Can't wait for the next one. You're like, can we go back to number 2? But give me your opinion on this, Brian.
So as a TO, I have had people approach me and going, hey, this table doesn't work. And I go, all right, why? And they will, if they go, well, it just doesn't work. Well, if you tell me why, I can fix it. Well, if I'm hearing this and that and the other thing, and then if they explain it to me, I can go, oh, all right, I understand that, right? Like, we had a meme table at Du Bois this year. It was 100% cargo crates. It was at a shipping yard. And then one of the guys, Matt, goes, man, I played against Harlequins. And I went, oh, yeah, we didn't even think for 1 second.
Sorry. Which is like, literally what was said, by the way.
It was legitimately, oh my God, I'm so sorry about that. Didn't even put that into consideration. We probably should have said that they were breachable in some areas to fix that problem. And he was like, it's all right. He goes, it happens sometimes. You just have a yin and yang moment. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want that to happen to anybody. So approach the TO, be honest, but do it very politely. Don't start out with, you suck, man, your events blow, and just go, all right, what can we do to fix the problem? Or you can start with, hey, I enjoy coming to your events, but this table here has an issue with it being a shooting gallery. Or this table here has an issue with it so dense that the only thing you can do is close combat on it. Because I've seen both sides of the spectrum. So you have to, approach it and talk to them about it. And, and if they go, hey, I would love to advance or fix my terrain. You guys want to show up on a Tuesday afternoon or a Tuesday evening and help me fix stuff? The first response out of your mouth should probably be, yeah, that's a great idea. I'd love to help. Not, well, no, I don't have time for that shit. Because if you're going to complain about it and the TO asks you for help, you've now lost all your ability to complain about it if you don't help.
Brian with the corporate answer, just like my boss. Whenever I say there's a problem, immediately says, "Good, how you gonna fix it?"
I do want to address that we now have Alan in the chat. You have a face like a cock, sir.
I will say, like right now, there's a large event. By the way, if you're close to East Tennessee, Mall in the Mall, Dice Head is in Cleveland, Tennessee. Whatever, April 15th, 16th, really good event. They're using layout 3. And I'd like to say my favorite thing is GW terrain, and my least favorite thing in the entire game is layout 3 if you don't have the correct terrain.
Well, it's a big thing, and the thing is also is the length of the walls, everyone. You can't do... It's the GW layout is literally made for having long enough walls on each side to block out. Like if you just... a lot of people run... They'll have, a piece, but it won't have very much, to make the U. It'll be very lowercase. And you're like, that's semi-unplayable too, because it's supposed to be that you can basically push up in there and you can't get angles unless you come around. That's the whole point of it.
Right. And so that's going to make, like, I came to the TO, was very respectful, and I was like, hey, this is why I can't play Melee at your event. And he disagreed with me, so I can't play Melee at his event. But the saving grace of player placed is, while player place is a very large skill and it takes a lot of practice, I spent a lot of coaching time with helping people understand how to play on player place. You can play any army effectively on player place. You will have disadvantaged matchups based upon who goes first or second with the first drop, if you can drop in the middle on a 5er, but at least you can play any army on that. Whereas literally right now you could not play World Eaters on.
I'll give you that, because I'll give you the fact that you can play as long as you have that skill set. But I think that I would actually turn my opinion a lot if we did like I said, that middle piece. If we did an auto middle piece, I would change my mind a decent amount about player placed. I still wouldn't be my favorite, but I would like it significantly more because the game wouldn't be decided so harshly on who gets that first drop when you're talking about very melee armies versus very shooting armies. It's like that role shouldn't be such a big deal, and it is right now. And I would like to have a mid piece, but you can't have like the stronghold like they do with FLG right now. That's just too ridiculous because that even more so becomes punishing because you shifted on the line. So whoever wins that role just pushes you that gargantuan building into your face, basically. So,
were you the one that told me about the event that had the really cool, which was like it was actually line of sight blocking, but it was bigger than the actual.
I just said that. This is why he never listens to me.
I do. I'm remembering this.
Never listens to me. I just said it in this cast.
Brad, I just sent you a couple pictures through chat if you want to post them up. So the people who make the WTC terrain, the Wayland Yutani, make nice. A set called Ninth Age, I think is what it's called on their thing. But it is the WTC style terrain with U-shaped buildings for the big buildings, the two smaller buildings for the GW buildings, and then the area terrain pieces on the one picture I sent you. They have crates. The ones I have foresty type stuff on them that are ruined.
I like this quite a lot, though.
Forests.
But
they've got an overhead view as well of like a pixel drawn picture. That stuff's great. If you're a TO, I highly recommend you check them out. They are not in the US, they are overseas. But the cost on it's pretty affordable for a pre-painted table, a little over 100 and change a table. It's a good way to adapt to the GW. The stuff's pretty durable. It folds flat, solves a lot of storage problems for people. Good stuff. It's what I use for the Salt City GT. It's matching tables. It works really well. I don't know if Brad can share that or put it up in the chat. I just put
the first picture of it. That is proper GW Tower terrain where it has walls big enough to mace.
Yep. And if you don't
floors, so you get to do some tactical stuff, which is great.
Yep. It is absolutely beautiful stuff. I bought it last year. I was one of their quote unquote test or trial runners for it. The stuff's fantastic. It was durable. I use it for RTTs. I use it for GTs. I've used a little bit of it at Du Bois. It's always met with a positive response of very functional, doesn't look bad. And we've got, you just buy generic mats in 4 or 5 different colors of the terrain and you are good to go. That's why I have 40 matching tables like that, soon to be 50. So yeah.
Sorry, Alan got me triggered. He goes, giant rocks like the Adepticon are great terrain. Fuck you. I'm still angry about that. And I'm trying to fix it. You know what I mean? And this is the thing, ready? This is my response to, I thought Adepticon had pretty terrible terrain. It was probably the worst I played on. And instead of just losing my shit and going on a bunch of casts and saying they can all get hit by a bus, I contacted them, I contacted Tom, and I've contacted like Greg Sparks and a couple of the guys that are involved in Adepticon and went, hey, can we help you with a solution? Can we bring terrain? Can we help you with this? Can we set up a workshop? Like, what can be done to help you with your problem? You know what I mean? It is a problem. We're acknowledging it, but we're also saying, what can we do to help as a community? What can we do to help you? That I want to help. I don't want to shit on the tournament. I want to help the tournament as we move forward. And that's important that we don't just go, you suck, and mic drop away. You're like, hey, even if the thing was they suck, well, how do you suck less? You know what I mean? And here's the reason, that the things that I think I can help you with, or at least I can get you in contact with people. More so in my case. Let me have you talk to some of my people that'll talk to your people and figure this out.
Yeah. A couple folks have mentioned player point terrain or player place terrain, but then you roll for side. And I think that is about as good as of an idea as bringing back Seize the Initiative. And I will leave it at that.
Oh, fuck you. Seize the Initiative. How about that? I will punch you right in the dick.
Am I wrong? Can you imagine setting up your terrain and then your opponent just be playing knights and they immediately just set everything
And just
in this,
just go for luck, and then
Yeah,
put C's back in, and then seize the initiative.
right. There we go. 6 rolls to see who goes first. Who wins?
And the thing is that, yeah, I mean, it is. Gary, send me that link, by the way. Send it to me a messenger, and I'll put it up in chat. But yeah, it's just, we have to, in all seriousness, though, like we do have to help people out. The thing is we're a community. We're trying to help each other. And when shit's fucked, we have to try to do the best at unfucking it. You know what I mean? So you at least have to give some ideas. You know what I mean? Even if you have a shit idea, just put it out there. You know what I mean? It at least put out something that the person can do. You know what I mean? And like, no one wants to just hear you suck. You know what I mean? Maybe it's true, but like, well, how do I suck less? Give me something on that. You know what I mean? So that's important that we help each other out.
Well, in TO defense too, right? 7th terrain was different than 8th. 8th was a major change, and 9th is a major change from 8th. And it's really a lot of lag for TOs.
Play mat size.
And play mat size, even just the terrain, right? Like 8th, like a lot of the tables that you would see at larger competitive events were like barren because of the requirement of number of tables, and that's how 8th was played. 9th is an extremely heavy terrain focused. You either have terrain or you die because damage has gone up on a
like exponential level. Yeah. That. I have to get, you know what? I'm going to give this because Alan did throw it out there and I've seen him do it multiple times. He just goes, well, just place all the objectives on the side you want and put the terrain super terrible on one side and just win the roll off. He's literally done that multiple times in old editions. Back when you rolled and then you moved after it, he would just place all the objectives in one spot and just be like, I'll just win the roll. It's no big deal. I'm like, are you literally banking your entire strategy on winning this die roll? He's like, yeah, why? I don't. You keep saying it looks like it's a bad thing. Like, you're hurting my soul.
So, again, as a TO who's sitting here and runs a lot of events, the hobby of the terrain is such, and I give 2 of my guys, Zuber and Jeff, a ton of credit for being there to help my ass out more times than I can count, along with Tyler Brown and a bunch of my other guys, to where it's like, all right, the edition changed. All right, so we play a couple games typically at the start of the new edition, and then we go, no, we need to fix the terrain. And then we legitimately grab a table, grab some of the unused terrain, and go, all right, together can we fix this table? Great, we got this table fixed. All right, now on to the next one, and on to the next one, and the next one. And you're talking, I have, I think, 42 tables of just other terrain. And there are times where it's like, great, I ended up with more tables at the end of the day. That definitely happened when the table size shrank because I was always a very dense terrain person. And then right now, with the proliferation of scatter terrain means nothing, I have buckets of scatter terrain that don't get used right now. But it's like I have a ton of forests that don't really get used right now because they're not that consequential in the game. And there's a lot of things that will go in and out of vogue, and I guarantee they come back around. I don't throw a ton of stuff out because it'll change. Forests work for Age of Sigmar. They might work for another game that I do stuff for. It is what it is. It's a continuous thing that TOs have to keep up on. It's the one expense that when people go, oh, TOs make hand over fist money running events, and it's like, no, they really make nothing whatsoever. It's really for the love of the hobby, because you continuously have to churn money back into that terrain, into a lot of different things that people just don't see, especially the cost of venues, which have gone astronomical over the last year.
Yeah. I don't think that a lot of TOs get to make a lot of profits. But that's my reason why like player placed is a little bit easier for TOs, is because no matter how the terrain adjusts, it's easier to poke holes and make it, whereas GW requires an exact right.
I give you that, but the thing is that maybe I just think that everybody's going to get together. I'm doing my Comrade Brad speech right now, but like, I feel like we could just have days before certain tournaments where you could kick out like a decent amount of terrain with just, I mean, I've literally even used the hot cutter to make foam terrain and then just assembly line that shit. I would rather have painted stuff that's playable than super pretty stuff. If I have I'd rather have beautiful terrain, obviously, but like if I had to pick, I would pick playable terrain that's painted over pretty terrain that's not playable. You know what I mean?
I think the hard part that you run into is that the larger variance of the player base is very picky. They want to have a very thematic, very pretty table that they're playing on, and you lose a lot of people that are not necessarily your aggressive winning player dynamic so much as I'm the guy that's played Orcs since 2nd edition back when I had 30 dudes stand around my Psyker so that I could buff everything into 1 billion, and they're like still living off of tank shock, and they don't care two craps about what obscuring is or anything. They're just showing up for a good time because they're like, I'm playing this, and they see your foot cut foam and they never come back because they're like, this person doesn't do it right. So then TOs get stuck investing like $100 a table to get some of that awesome laser cut wood table, and they get everything set up, and then immediately it gets thrown out with the next edition.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is why I think you have to have community involvement, though. But I think we're not doing a good job of, as somebody that's been enabled his whole life, I am not adverse to asking other people to do shit for me. And I think that you could, if you reached out to the community, maybe it won't happen as much, but I really think that if we more aggressively go, hey guys, we have Salt City at this day, we have Tennessee tournament, we've got Michigan, you know what I mean? And we're holding a RTT / we need to make fucking terrain for our event. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's worth you voting on that playable versus pretty, because I have to say I kind of agree more on your side of it. If I go to an event and the organizer has terrain that's more slap tackle done the night before, but it's playable, I'll give them a second chance and come back again. Because there's more to the hobby as well as like the hanging out with friends and watching certain individuals walk around with brown paper bags.
Would you guys go to something like that, though?
Even that there are a monicum of players that go to events and they want to play on thematic pretty tables. And I have no problem with that as a TO. I appreciate that as someone who's done pretty tables for years and is a big fan of them. It's tough sometimes to keep up with super pretty tables and keep them relevant for the players who come for not playing on the pretty tables, who want the functional terrain, who want to try and win the event. There's a gentle balancing act you have to do as a TO, and it's a tough line to walk. And I give a lot of people credit who do keep up on this, because there are some amazing TOs out there who are always trying to up the game and do things better and make things more functional and pretty. And it's tough to do. Adepticon for years they have the prettiest and nicest terrain. And that was,
they also have the most volunteers.
Probably 6th edition.
Yeah. And the problem is we kept that same terrain and the game chin on. But my thing is like, I want to ask you guys a question. Would you go to, and I'll ask everybody in chat on this, would you go to an RTT that was literally a 3-game RTT, but at some point in time for lunch, it's a free RTT, but everybody was required to spend X amount of time, and we're just going to build terrain for the next big tournament. You know what I mean? Whether you're cutting, spraying, painting some stuff, you know what I mean? And you do like it doesn't even have to be that long of a time. You can kick out so much, I think, in a short amount of time, at least making playable terrain. You know what I mean? I feel like if you had 20 people just smashing for like an hour or two.
But best way I can put this is, right now I've got 20 tables of Kill Team open terrain that I need to get painted, right? It's all assembled. It's ready to go. It's legitimately need a halfway decent weather day and 4 people with rattle cans to get it to where it's 70% done. And I'm going to ask my community to help me out. Come down on a nice Saturday. I will feed you, apply you with whatever kind of beverage I need to apply you with to get you to help me out. And you never know, at the end of the day, I'll probably hook you up with a discount at the store for helping out, because that's what I need, right? I need that help.
That sounds like a good way to hang out for a Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, I just
roll out a grill and have someone throw in some money and get some burgers.
I might start this up as a thing, everyone. You know what I mean? Like, I might make it a thing in our area. You know what I mean? So obviously, the people closer to me, it's going to be easier if I try to start this. But I think I'm going to do something like that because we're doing a shitty job of helping each other out, especially when you have extra terrain. You know what I mean? It's just things of that nature. But we just have a big community. I just feel like we could solve a lot of these problems with terrain, or at least patch the wall. You know what I mean? Maybe we're not making the best things, but like you said, you literally bring out the grill, bring out a couple drinks, and just hang out and make it a community day. I just think that you could put together like, hey man, it also says that we know that it's an issue. We're trying to make it better. You know what I mean? As long as you're improving, I feel a lot of people will give you a pass. Just like DJ was saying earlier, you know, like he shows up and they're trying. Yeah, I'll give it one more try. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on this, Crowley?
I agree fully. Honestly, I have my mentality about the hobby in general, whether it comes to terrain or anything, is as long as you're trying, I will never give you crap. I've actually played on a table before where the TO wanted to let a guy that it was his first tournament ever come play, and I drew the low table, and the table was literally macaroni boxes and ramen packs. And the ramen packs were forests, and the macaroni boxes were the ruins. And it was one of the most favorite tournaments ever because I was giving him crap about macaroni and cheese jokes. But no, as long as there's any intent given out and the store's going, I've gone to multiple hobby days where we were having an assembly line. If the first person primed, the next person did silver, the next person did highlights with gold, and then I was with the airbrush doing ink to make it look all like dirty and grungy because it was a Mars table. And we pumped out 30 tables in a day, and it was fantastic. So yeah, I think that everybody should try to volunteer to help out their store as much as possible because stores don't get enough love anymore, especially with Amazon existing, in my humble opinion.
I agree on that 100%. So,
do you want to discuss the other topic while we only have 20 minutes left?
Yeah, I mean, well, there was no adults to hold me accountable, so obviously
I'm holding you accountable now, sir.
Let's talk about
like I was getting in.
I was going to actually say one way you could set here to segue into your next thing. You were talking about the terrain, the way the terrain's set up, and one thing that I talk to a lot of people when I'm like teaching them and getting them into the game, and they're going to the first GT is when you set up the table and you look at the table and your opponent's at the table. Talk about what you see on the table. What is this? Is this a rune? Is this blocking full line of sight? Show these things so when you put your models inside, you are able to know what that person's intent is. Segue for you, Brad.
Yeah. Well, I'll go with Alan's post on this because he was putting it up because he was bitching about me, but not about me, to me about this a while back, and then he put it up because he's like, he thinks that intent went too far, which is every time anybody messed up, they were like, well, I didn't mean to do this, and then they got to change it. And I go, that's not how intent is, though. The intent is you have a conversation, and again, it's a conversation. You don't just state shit and move on with your life. You know what I mean? But like, you have to have the conversation of what you're trying to do. And if that's possible, then yes. But if you just make huge errors, you know, intent or not, then no. That's why you have the conversation before the moves, before you do everything. And then you talk through it. Again, it's a conversation. Somebody just says, hey, I don't want to be heroic. Hey, I don't want to be shot. Well, you have to talk about it before all this shit goes down. You know what I mean? And that's what intent is on that. If I just YOLO swag my army within 6 inches of Crowley's World Eaters and he just heroics me with his 6-inch strat, well, that's my fault. You know what I mean? You should talk beforehand. That's why it's so important to have conversations about shit. Then intent is a real thing. Because you go, this is what I'm trying to do. I'd like to stay out of your heroic. Can I? You know what I mean? Is that even a possibility? I'd like to not be shot from here. Is that a possibility? Let's talk through it. That's also why you start the game, especially if you don't know an army, everyone. Can you redeploy? Can you move outside the move phase? Heroics, fights last. Ask all the shit beforehand because
that's the more difficult part right there, Brad, is there's a lot that you could theoretically ask before a game, and that with experience playing on table, you look at the army you're playing and you know what it may be able to do. Obviously, World Eaters are not going to gun you down. So you're not going to ask them questions about range shooting, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to ask them more advance and charge and threat ranges for combat units. And when you look at that and you're coming to a tournament as like a first, second, third for tournament, which questions do you have to ask? And I think that's the tougher part, is getting that down into a sense of what are the important questions that you need to ask.
You got to write that down, though. Talk to about it, because I've got a system for that. Everybody that I coach that I do that, I literally put down, hey, every game you should be asking the things that I just said, and then sometimes more. Because what happens is I want to go to the bar, the restaurant, the whatever, and I want to sit down and I want to bitch at Brian and Crawley about how they made all their saves in a 12-inch charge. I don't want to be annoyed at one of us thinking that we gotcha the other person. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's the whole point. But that's why a conversation is had. If you just state that I don't want to do something, I could just be like, I intend to win.
To compliment Brad, which is something that I'm sure Brad likes hearing.
Let's bring it.
I played one of Brad's coaching clients at a GT. The guy sat down. He goes, I really don't know anything about your army. Do you mind if I ask you a list of questions? And the guy pulled out a piece of paper that had questions written on it. He had a pen in his hand. He asked the questions. He wrote down the responses. So then when it came time, he goes, okay, so I want to do this and I want to move over here, but I know you have the ability to do this because I asked it earlier. Is there any way I can put my models there and not have that happen? And I was like, no, because I said, no matter what you do, you have to come within 3 inches of all my army over here and the entire thing heroic intervenes. So that would be really bad for you. And the guy went, yep, so I won't do that. That's playing by good intent. Playing by bad intent is I move all my models, I do everything after we've had this talk earlier. You know my entire army heroically intervenes. You put all your charging units within 3 inches of a ton of my stuff, and I go, all right, well, I heroic. Well, I didn't mean to do that. And I was like, but we went over that I can heroic. You moved everything, and I asked you if you were good with where your stuff was. And you said yes, and then your charge phase was at the end, and I did my charge end stuff. Well, you're just playing a gotcha. And I was like, but I told you everything my army does. If you would have, when you moved, said, can I get in there and have this happen where I won't get heroic, the conversation would have been, no, you really can't.
Right. I have a good one for you after, Stephen.
Decision they wanted.
I want to say that I have examples of both things as my thing. My game with John Lennon at Cherokee was probably one of the best games of playing by intent that I can think of in the history of 9th edition, in that in the beginning we clearly stated our intent, what we were trying to do. I placed a forest in a strategic location. He deployed against it, realized what it was, but it wasn't a situation where he asked for a take back because he saw a strategic choice. He wanted to take that flank. It was good, right? Towards the end of that game, my infiltrators are in the building. Obviously, my intent is for them to be as far forward as possible so they can't get shot. So he's like, cool, that's your intent. Make sure they're in the position that they're at. I'll move and I'll see if I can see it, right? We both know what we're trying to do and what we're trying to maximize. We're just not allowing a stray antenna poking out in the wrong spot to ruin an entire game for both of us, right? My worst experience, and forgive me if you're listening to this right now, was a Tau player at...
He's going to be like, I played Chad Brester. This guy... Fuck this dude.
There was a Tau player that was my first time playing against him, and we were both pretty inebriated. And he said, do you know the Tau Codex? And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the Tau Codex. And then he used the heroic intervention strat on my scarabs when I obviously had intended to be outside of heroic intervention range, moved his models before even letting me measure to see, right? And it just created this really weird play experience at that point, because then I have to go into hat backwards mode because I'm like, okay, this guy's going to be like that, right? Obviously, my scarab has more than enough movement. I'm not trying to be within 6 inches of your heroic intervention. I'm not trying to be in that situation, right? So you're creating a tone and setting an expectation for the game, right? Where when I play against Chad Brester, literally he just throws his models at me and says, go put them in the corner wherever I can do the action. And I'm like,
so this is a habit. So this is a habit.
Oh yeah,
very much so.
You keep saying it.
Anyone who is watching this right now, if you play a game against Brad, do not deploy his models for him, ever.
It's a trap. He's
Make him walk around and deploy his own models.
This is hurtful. I feel like I'm being attacked
you
right now.
were just telling us how you like to work out when you're playing Warhammer. We're just giving you a walk.
The correct thing in
It's
that case,
far.
though, Brett is doing the right thing by asking you to do it. You're both agreeing to the game state where you're at, and he's invested in making sure. Like, Please put me outside of 9 inches where I'm equidistant to those two things so I can charge those two things. Now he's going to agree because he placed the thing. It's really difficult to argue with a judge afterwards that the intent wasn't correct when he's the one who placed it there, right?
I agree with you, and I'll gladly put someone's models in the corner 9 inches away as long as they're not Chad Brester.
What the big thing on that, no, but the thing is on all of these things is talk with you. Have a fucking conversation. Like you have to talk with your opponent about what the hell you're trying to do.
And then people are afraid to give away their strategies too. Like they think that it's some massive.
But it's not some secret, man. Just
hold on, Brad.
I know.
So I'm sure Zuber's watching the stream right now. We had an event that we were judging, Atlantic City Open 2021. 2 players who, when they came up to the table, one of the players was playing the Dark Eldar models. We were very specific with this person when we approved his army that he had to have, at least for the Raiders, the new model so it could be seen and line of sight could be drawn to it from the new Raider. Number one, he didn't bring that, so it was a little bit of a kerfuffle on his behalf and ours for not really being super strict off the get-go. But him and his opponent got so disgruntled with each other, they stopped talking to each other during the game, making what I would call probably the worst 40K game I've ever seen in all my years of being around 40K. And legitimately, they would talk to the judge that I had sitting at the table, and then the judge would repeat the thing to the other person, and that person wouldn't respond to the person across the table from him. They'd talk to the judge. Now, with it being the first big event post-COVID, because it very much was the first big event post-COVID, we were trying to make everybody happy. We probably should have red carded both players and sent them home. We didn't. Or at least we should have yellow carded everybody and called it a draw, whatever. We could have made a better choice on the judge side of things. But man, that was like miserable. Talk to your opponent. Be nice. Be cordial. Be polite. If you can't agree on something, then call the judge. But don't make it to where
there's still ways to disagree without being a jerk.
I'm going to say probably one of the most controversial things I have ever said, and forgive me for in advance. If your plan is to gotcha your opponent, you will not win a super major.
No, because you will get punished by that. Because also, that's why you have the conversations also, and that's why you don't gotcha people, because everybody fucks up. It's a lot of moves. It's a lot of things. You're going to make mistakes. That's why you tell your opponent what you know what I mean? This is what I'm trying to do, and have them help you with it. Because otherwise, that's why you, again, pre-measure, talk about things, because shit gets knocked over. You're tired. We're in game 8. You know what I mean? And shit like that. Shit's going to get fucked, man. Just tell your opponent what the hell you're doing.
And again, I'm a big fan of, if I make a mistake, it's on me. And if my opponent's giving me the chance to take it back, 99.9% of the time, I'm probably not going to. Motor City Mayhem last year, I was playing against Sam Perpicio from Canada, probably one of the best Blood Angels players in the world. I moved to Harpy. I clearly thought when I placed it, I was like, that looks like it's about outside of 6 inches of getting heroics by those sanguinary guards. And then he measures and was like, did you realize that you put that down within 6 inches? And I'm like, I did. And he was like, yep. And I'm like, that's my fault, man. And he was like, no, you can fix it. And I'm like, no. I said, punish me. I need to learn my lesson. I need to measure.
And I disagree with that so much. If you were in your head thinking about being outside of 6, and
but I didn't. I didn't take the time. I made my mistake. I learned from it. Now I make sure I measure all the time. But I've not made that mistake a second time because I let myself get punished by it.
Now I have a question for you guys. Here is the situation that I ran into, and this goes into intent and everything. I made a move, and I moved within I charged. I declared the charge and I completed the charge. And when I finished moving the model, I measured to 2 characters next to it and said, okay, if I place the model here, you cannot heroic me with this. You cannot heroic me, right? You cannot heroic me from here. You cannot heroic me from here. And I did point to the characters. And he says, no, I can't do that. I said, okay, then I placed the model. Then he jumps up and goes, well, now I'm going to spend 1 command point and I can now heroic with this squad over here. And I paused for a second. I'm like, I can still move over here and be out of range. I was like, no. You can see my intent is to not be heroic by this. and not reveal. My belief was not revealing that stratagem was kind of going away from the intent. I did have obvious intent that I did not want to be heroic.
You were playing against a person that would struggle at a higher level table in a major because
do you feel like I was in the wrong to say I did not want to be.
Your intent was obviously not to be heroic.
But we get what you said, but the thing is that that's why you have to start. And I've learned over playing a billion games that you just have to phrase the questions. That's why you have to have a little bit better conversation at that. You have to go, I'm trying to make this charge. I want to stay out of heroic. Do we agree that I'm staying?
You're right.
That I'm saying, but that the thing is that yes, you were correct what you should have been doing, but like that's why you just have to refine how you ask those questions.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can ask enough questions to make most people just have a decent game with me. You know what I mean?
Now, in the end, I will say he agreed with my point, and we moved on from it, and he understood. So it was not a huge controversy. It was like just a moment where it was a guy who I played a lot of times in many, many GTs. And every time he runs into me, I've ended up just beating him. So he was just kind of getting to the point of, I'm getting frustrated losing to you all the time. I want this now. And I could see it. And he's a good friend of mine. And he even admits it. He's like, dude, I hate you. I love you, but I hate you.
I've adopted this conversation from somebody else that if somebody ever does something that gets you angry, to sit down and breathe and remember that the first way that you would start this conversation with any of your friends that don't play 40K was, I moved my Barbies in the wrong spot and I got really angry when he did something against me.
You're stealing my mojo on this. I love this.
I know.
I got mad playing Toy Soldier.
Yep.
Right.
And then you tell somebody that doesn't play 40K, you have to start with that. They go, yeah, I don't ever want to talk to you again.
Right. Speaking of somebody who doesn't ever play 40K, did you guys watch the episode of South Park that just aired?
So awesome.
Oh God, when he brought the strippers over.
How many of you can all relate to that exact moment though, where you have someone who's not playing 40K and they come over and or come around you and they watch what you're doing and they see it. And at that one point where they just go, okay, seriously, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've all had that one moment.
Oh yeah.
So that's how I started playing. Literally. And I was like, all right, I'm bored. I can't go anywhere right now. Someone needs to tell me what the hell's happening.
Nice sword, Crawley.
My boss actually asked me what this was because of that episode. So yeah, I was like, yeah, it's really cool. I do that thing too.
So you got to remember, I run a game store with inside an art store, so there's some really weird interactions sometimes. So we have a 20-person RTT going on in the back of the store, and you get your grandma-aged ladies coming in to buy their watercolor and art supplies, and all of a sudden stop dead in their tracks and go, "What are you boys doing over there?" And we're like, "Come on over." And to all the credit of a couple of my local players who were fantastic, this woman and her daughter came over to the table and they talked to her, explained to her a little bit of the lore, talked about the models. And they were like, yeah, and if you head over there, I'll bet you Brian will give you a free model to paint. And of course, the Games Workshop allows stores to get the, like free Space Marines to give out and everything. And this week, the woman's been back in with her daughter and they bought a box of Space Marines to go home and paint and assemble because they enjoy art and they looked at it as these are cool models to paint. So definitely get some cool interactions. Yeah.
Is there any other model? I mean, like even in the sense of like model cars and model boats and stuff like that. I mean, yes, Games Workshop stuff is expensive, but man, there's some quality with that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the best quality to assembly to painting ratio.
Probably are you making a lion, bro?
Huh?
Are you going to make a lion for your Dark Angels?
Of course.
He looks really cool. I'm not even super excited about that many models. I kind of want to just play Dark Angels just so I can put the lion on the board. That dude looks badass.
You don't have to play Dark Angels. You could play Iron Hands and put the lion in with the Supreme Command detachment.
Yeah, whatever.
You get those back. That don't exist currently.
Let's play demons and turn them into a demon prince.
No, that's...
Hey, almost all of my demon princes are actually converted Abaddons in different ways, usually incorporating Terminator armor and different things. So like my Zinch one is a Abaddon with the Scarab Occult, and then it has Stormcast wings. It's really cool. I look forward to doing some crazy stuff.
I literally want the lion just because I feel like I relate so much, because middle-aged looking lion has seen some shit. And I love everything about that. I'm like,
And he's
I know.
waking up grumpy.
Yes.
Just woke up from a really long nap.
He's just like, what the shit is happening? Hey, get off my lawn. that would be what rolls around his base. Get off my lawn, you damn kids.
Yeah. So with 4 minutes left, do we want to give everybody a minute to do shout outs for stuff that's going
everybody
on?
promote your shit.
You go first.
Crowley.
Or we
I'll
can
go.
just
I'll
pause.
sit silent.
Salt City GT, July 7th, 8th, and 9th for 40K, the 8th and 9th for Age of Sigmar, 8th and 9th Marvel Crisis Protocol, 8th and 9th for Warhammer Kill Teams. I am very happy to announce that we are golden ticket holders, our best overalls, and all 3 of the Games Workshop things will get a golden ticket to the World Championships. Sign up before the 15th, before the price on the ticket goes up a little bit. Room block just opened up, so register today. thesaltcitygt.com in Syracuse, New York.
Hold on, I gotta give the 4 peaches. Oh, to psych up a little bit here. You think I like the fact that all of my friends are like, all like, I don't even know how you're alive now. You're gonna die, Brad.
You'll wake up in 10,000 years and start getting revenge.
I'll be in stasis the whole time. I knew it, motherfuckers.
David, you're up next, bud.
All right, hey, DJ with Tim's Nation. I will send Brad a link. Hopefully, he'll put it in the bottom of this video this time. And what?
Where is it?
I sent you it for the last time I was on, and it never was on. Send it to you.
That seems crazy.
You were too busy talking about cocaine bears and everything. But
have you ever seen me? I kind of get off track.
I mean, it's a shocker. It's brand new. But DJ with Tim's Nation, I do a lot of 40K reviews, battle reports, and everything like that. Kind of moving over to a new format and style with how I'm doing the battle reports. Come check us out. Give me some advice, some input. I'm doing this mostly by myself with a couple of friends, so I'm gladly take the advice. And next weekend, the 15th and 16th, I believe, I'll be at Bedlam in the Berg in Pittsburgh, bringing my Necrons that I've been practicing, the Canoptic Harvest.
Nice. Crowley, what you got going on for me?
Next weekend, Dice Head again, Cleveland, Tennessee. $4,500 in store credit up for grabs if there's enough people that show up. Should be a really good event with a top cut for funsies, and there's a 16, well, I guess however many people are left over. RTT the next day, so even if you don't make top cut, you get to have a really good time. Other than that, please go to Salt City GT and support Brian.
Do stuff.
Do the things.
Please like and subscribe. Look at the Patreon. Make it so I don't have to sleep outside in a box. That's all I ask, everyone. That's all I ask. Until then. Actually, no, I got one more thing tomorrow. We are going to go live at a random afternoon time. I'm taking Brandon Valley live. He's going to do some painting, and I am going to talk random nonsense about the game, the state of everything, and we're going to do it probably 1-ish. I just have to go with him. We are basically doing a test run tomorrow afternoon. We're going to have Brandon just doing modeling shit. Basically kind of just a painting and hangout hour or two, and we're going to start it tomorrow. So
it's always an odd conversation to tell someone, say, hey, do you want to come over and do some modeling?
Yeah. Also, don't make it weird. Just let it happen. And on that,
Don't make eye contact.
see you
No
later.
eye contact.
See you later, everyone.